36-year-old Rikki Berry was targeted execution style by a violent gang who harboured so much venom and vitriol that they were going to kill the dad no matter what, as he carried out work at his girlfriend's house. The crazed and brutal incident saw 3 men, Adam Williams and Connor Walsh, who were both 26 years old at the time, along with 27-year-old Michael Smith, who was 27 years old. The 3 men had travelled to Rikki's quayside address in the Kirby area in a Seat Alteca Cupra that belonged to one of their uncles, and the vehicle had been insured by an associate. Now, the person who was the triggerman had travelled on an electric bike in the convoy. When Rikki Berry, who was also known as Nuggy, had went into the garden, the triggermen pulled the throttle and then ascended onto the pavement in order to get as close to Rikki as they could. They then stopped outside the quayside address, positioned by the front garden where Rikki was working. Despite knowing that there were children in the house, a 3-year-old and a 12-year-old playing inside, CCTV caught the moment that the triggerman had pulled out his semi-automatic gun, raised their arm and then took aim at Nuggy. Now, Nuggy had no time to run or warn his girlfriend or the children, or even to defend himself or try to reason with the people that were trying to take his life. The triggermen then emptied the gun. 3 of the 4 casings had struck Nuggy. Now, according to police, when they reviewed the CCTV, they said that the person responsible for the M had pulled their hoodie up as tight as it could go and then leaned forward on the Suron e-bike in order to try and disguise themselves. Adam Williams, Connor Walsh and Michael Smith were said to be in the Seat Alteca Cupra positioned by the e-bike, and they watched on while the M took place. Adam Williams admitted to being the driver, while Michael Smith and Connor Walsh also admitted to being in the rear seats. So heinous was the Liverpool gang that they carried out the M at a time of 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, July 17th of 2024, the height of summer and in broad daylight. Now, 2 of the casings had ripped through Rikki's body, while the 3rd casing had chipped the upper shoulder, and then another casing had entered the right side of his chest and exited via the left shoulder. In Rikki's final moments, while he was gravely injured, he managed to get to the kitchen area. He warned his girlfriend through laboured breaths, "Get the children out of here." Rikki then collapsed right there on the kitchen floor. Now, neighbours were forced to step over Rikki in order to attend to the children. When forensics swept the home from top to bottom, the police discovered casing fragments on the pavement outside the address, and also one being found inside the kitchen. Another casing had passed right through the house, through the PVC, and shattered a pane of glass in the shed in the back garden. Thankfully, no one else inside the house were injured. Now, the prosecution says that Adam Williams held the most responsibility for the death of Rikki Berry, as he had drove the Seat to the scene of the crime in order to oversee the incident. As for Connor Walsh, he was also there to ensure that the M had been completed. However, Adam and Michael had eventually turned on Connor, and they says that Connor was actually the person that was riding the e-bike, therefore he was the triggerman. Also, Connor's DNA had also been found on the casings and also the magazine, and when he was questioned by police, Connor gave no comment and he could not explain as to why his DNA was found on these pieces of evidence that linked him to the crime. The prosecutor also explained that Adam, Connor and Michael's mobile phones had all pinged from the same location in West Derby before the M took place, where it then moved towards Kirby in tandem. As Rikki Berry lay dying surrounded by friends and loved ones, Adam, Connor and Michael had fled the scene in a Cupra. The Seat was then driven back to an address of an associate that was linked to Michael on Farrier Road. Now, Michael then turned off his mobile phone and discarded the mobile before purchasing another one. His old mobile phone had never been turned on since. Now, in order to distance himself from the crime, Michael had made his girlfriend book a room at the Majestic Hotel, which was in Bootle. Emergency services were called to the quayside address at 6:40 p.m. They then also requested police. Now, emergency services were blue lighted to the scene, and by the time the Northwest Ambulance Service arrived at the quayside address, Rikki was in very real, critical and serious condition. The dad was rushed to hospital where he was pronounced dead a short time later. Now, because each man operated in the same circles, rumours quickly circulated across Liverpool and Merseyside that Adam, Michael and Connor had put a hit on Nuggy and now he was dead. The news got back to Michael, so just 5 days later after the Michael had phoned an associate, Stephen Frail, who was both friends with all the men involved, and that included Rikki, and this was on July 22nd. Michael was heard on the phone saying, "How come you are going around telling people I struck Nuggy when I have known him for years and you for years? Do you really think I'm capable of K-ing him? Lad, I came down Molly Road and a Suron e-bike was behind me. In my head, the Suron was meant for me, lad. I was myself, as I thought it was for me. I put my foot down." And as for Connor Walsh, so silly was the 26-year-old that he had actually taken a bike ride to the scene of the crime just hours after Rikki Berry was declared dead, with his 7-year-old son and also 13-year-old nephew. And Adam Williams had booked an Uber under a false name of Josh. He took an Uber cross-country on the afternoon of July 22nd from the Liverpool area to North Wales. Now, during the car journey, the taxi driver was forced to pull over because their men wanted a drink. Armed police eventually located Adam Williams at Woolston Lodge in Oswestry on July 24th. Adam actually had the gall and the cojones to try and evade armed police by running through the undergrowth of the hedges before he was caught. Now, when Adam, Michael and Connor were all arrested and taken into police custody, the men all told police that they were not involved in any kind of crime and answered no comment. However, Connor Walsh was one of the first men to crumble, despite giving no comment as to how his DNA got on the casings and the magazine linked to the Rikki and denying having anything to do with the serious crime. When confronted by evidence, Connor admitted to being in a Seat, but then he says that the incident took him by surprise. As for Adam Smith and Michael Williams, they also changed their story too, and explained that they had been in the Seat Alteca after originally denying any involvement and answering no comments. The two men then took it a step further by blaming Connor Walsh for being the triggerman and explained that he was the one riding the Suron e-bike at the time. Now, 26-year-old Adam Williams of Hamblett Crescent in St Helens was jailed for life, and he was told that he would serve a minimum sentence of 31 years. 27-year-old Michael Smith from Kirby was also jailed for life with a minimum term of 31 years, and Connor Walsh, who was 26 years old, who is from the Kirby area too, also he was jailed for life with a minimum term set out at 30 years. Now, when the sentence was read out, Michael Smith was said to have turned towards Rikki Berry's family, who was still in a flood of tears. The guy actually had the audacity to laugh at them in the courtroom by stating, "Ha ha ha." In response, Rikki's friends and family replied with the words, "Scruffy, Bass, condolences, stay safe, safe."